Okay, today we'll be cutting a short dress with Ankara patches. That's a pattern design patches on it. And I'll be using 2 yards of this fabric to illustrate on how to cut the dress. And I'll be patching it with this pattern. Okay, so let's just go straight to the work. Okay, like I said, I'll be using 2 yards of fabric. Firstly, I'll cut the front part before cutting the back part. I'm doing this in a step-by-step way because of those who are beginners, who are just learning for the first time. Okay, for you to know the desirable material to fold to get your measurement is to use the biggest part of your body measurement, which is the hip measurement. Divide by 4 plus 2 inches, and I think this is enough for my front part. My fabric is already on fold, so I'll just take the dress length. So the dress length I'm working with is 36 inches. 36 inches. Okay, I'll add 1 inch extra for seam allowance. That's total of 37 inches. You can choose to add 2 inches seam allowance. It's just based on preference. Okay, now I'll just straight out the excesses I'm having. So I'll take my shoulder measurements, which is 15 inches. 15 inches now we divide by 2 to give us 7.5. So I'll go ahead and mark 7.5 here. 7.5. So after that, I'll take my shoulder slope 1 inch below, just exactly the point you mark 7.5, you come down by 1 inch. This is constant, then 3 inches along the neckline area. So I'll just connect with my ruler. You connect from that 3 inches you mark to meet up with the 1 inch downward. So this is my shoulder slope. So from this point now, I'll take my armhole distance, which is 15 inches, divide by 2, will also give me 7.5. So I'll mark my 7.5, and I'll also connect in a straight line. Okay, so this is my armhole. From this midpoint here now, I'm going in by 1 inch. I'm just trying to create my armhole curve. Sorry for the freehand. Now we'll derive the midpoint of our armhole distance, which is 3.75. So I'll just connect from the midpoint here to meet with the 1 inch. Okay, so that's our armhole curve. So underneath my armhole, I'll impute my bust measurement, which is 34 inches. Divide by 4 will give me 8.5. You divide your bust measurement by 4, your shoulder measurement by 2, your armhole measurement by 2. So this is 8.5. Since this gown will not be all that fitted, I'll add seam allowance to it. I'll add 1 inch seam allowance for ease, then 1 inch for seam allowance, then 1 inch for ease. So I'm adding a total allowance of 2 inches. So I just added 2 inches extra for the allowance. I'll be sewing using 1 inch now. Then this 1 inch extra will be for the freeness because it will not be fitted. Okay, from that point now, I'll place my tape from my shoulder line. Automatically, this is your shoulder line to get my waistline, which is 14 inches. My hip line, 24 inches. The hip line varies between 24 to 25 inches, depending on the height of the person you're working with. It's usually 24 to 25 inches. So this is my waistline and my hip line. On my waistline, I will insert my waist measurements. 28 inches divided by 4 will give me 7 inches. 7 inches. So at this side now, I'll add 1.5 inches for ease, then 1 inch for seam allowance. Okay, if you are having a big tummy, I'll advise to add 2 inches for ease, then 1 inch for seam allowance, so you can have enough space for freeness. On my hip line, I also take my hip measurement. My hip measurement is 38 inches. Divide by 4 will give me 9.5. So I'll mark my 9.5. I'll add 2 inches extra, 1 inch for freeness and 1 inch for seam allowance. So I'll just connect this line together. Okay, before then, I'll measure what I'm having on my hip, including the seam allowance. So what I'm having in total here is 11.75. So I'll also come to the hemming part of my dress and mark 11.75. I don't want it to be too free at the lower part, so I'm just fine with that. So I'll just connect the lines together. Just want it to be straight. Then I'll connect from my waist to my hip, then from my waist to my bust. Okay, you can see the shape of the dress. So for the front neckline, I'll be using the width of 3 inches. So we are still maintaining the 3 inches here, then 4 inches downward. So I'll just connect it together like this. Okay, so since my dress is going to be having the front slit, I'll also mark 4 inches for my slit. So but before I cut this out, I would love to cut the bodice. Okay, so I'll place my fabric to cut the back part before cutting out our neckline. Okay, I just folded the fabric into two. What I'm having here is I added 2 inches extra to my measurement because of the zipper allowance. So I'll just mark 2 inches straight down. So this line I drew is for the length of the dress, which is 37 inches. So I'll mark 2 inches here for my zipper allowance. You can choose to use 2 inches or 1.5 inches. It's fine. Okay, this is my zipper allowance. So I'll just place the front against the back like this. Okay, so as you can see, I'm placing it after the line. You can see it's not starting from this point, but it's after on the line I created for my zipper allowance. So I just mark my shoulder slope. Then I'll mark the bodies of my dress. I'll just trace it out. Okay, so for the back neckline, we are still maintaining 3 inches here. I'll come down by 1.5 inches. Then I'll connect to meet up with the 3 inches. So we are using 1.5 inches for the back neckline. So I'll just cut this out. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the neckline. Cut the back first. I'll open up my zipper allowance. Okay, this is it. I've opened up the zipper allowance. So what I'll be doing next is to open up my slit and cut the front neckline. This is my front part, so I'll just place it like this. And I'll open up my slit. So what I'll be doing next is to cut my lining for this dress. Okay, for the lining, it's just same way we cut the dress. You just fold your fabric into the lining into two, and you place the dress on it and cut. So mind you, your lining should be 1 inch shorter than the length of your lining for the dress should be one. Okay, your lining should be 1 inch shorter than the length of your dress, because we'll have to be using the lining to turn the lower part, and the seam allowance we added to those dress is 1 inch. So just place it like this and cut. I just repeat same process for the front and the back. Okay, I've cut out my lining for the front and back. The next thing we're doing now is to show you guys on how we're going to fix the patches. Okay, we are going to be fixing our patches on the front part of the dress, as you can see from the picture, and it's at the right hand side. And this is my patch, this is my pattern. So what I'll be doing now, I'll be lining this pattern. I'll be using the same material to line it. So I'll just fold it into two like this, like so. You can choose to gum it to make it firm, or if you don't want to, it's folded into two already. So I'll just sew. I don't want to cut it out in order not to make unnecessary mistake. So I'll just go to my machine and sew on it like this, tracing out the pattern with the machine. You just sew on it carefully all around. So I am using two of it already, so this is the second one. So I'll just sew on it before trimming the edges. It's also on fold, so I'll fold it into two. We are just using two pattern. Then I'll trace the pattern with my sewing machine. So I'll just do just that now, then show you guys what needs to do. Okay, I just sewed it round. I don't know if you can see all my thread. I just follow the lines of the pattern to sew it. So what I'll be doing next is to trim this off. You just trim carefully close to where you've sewn, but ensure you don't cut out your sewn pattern. You can also use the lining to turn this. Okay, I've cut out my pattern. What is left for me to turn it over to the other side? Remember, mind you, one part is serving as our lining. One part is serving as our lining, so don't get confused. So you can choose, like what I'm having here, I can choose whichever part I want to be the lining now. So I'll just create a small opening. I'll have to separate it like this, then create a small opening here, then flip it over and give it a good press. Okay, I'll be using this gum stay to gum the pattern because I want it to be a little bit firm. This fabric is so light, so just place it on it like this. Okay, I just gummed it with my paper steel. I'll just trim off the excessive I'm having. Okay, so now I can go ahead and open it up. You hope make sure you don't open both sides. You can see I'm trying to separate it. When you separate like this, you just open one part of it. And yeah, if you are to use a lining, you are creating the hole on the lining, not on your pattern. So I'll just flip it over. So I'll just go ahead and iron it very well so it can be very flattened. Okay guys, my pattern is ready to be sewn on my dress. Since we're working on the right hand side, I'll just place this front part on myself and know where is the right hand side, which is this side. Then I'll just, you can choose to put your pattern at the center side, but since I'm following a style, I just place one side here. I came down by 8.5 inches from my shoulder line before placing the first pattern. So the second one will just follow up underneath the first pattern. I'll just repeat the same process I did to make this pattern. You can see the back part. This is the hole I created, very tiny, and this is the front side. So I'll just use a matching thread, a pink color thread, and sew tiny around the edge of my pattern. You can also choose to use a gum to place this on your dress, but I prefer sewing it on it because the more you wash your clothes, the gum become weaker and it might begin to fall off. So you can hold it firmly with your sewing machine. Okay, that's it about the pattern. So I'll just go ahead and sew it on it after making the second one. I'll make the second one now. So what I'll be doing next is to make my second pattern. The same process I did with this. I'll be doing that off the camera before placing it on the dress. So after sewing on the dress, then you can line. You have to sew it first before lining the dress, so the thread will not show at the back of your lining. So you attach your pattern before sewing. Okay, I'll do just that now and get back to you guys. Okay, I've attached it on it neatly, and this is how it's looking. So what I'll be doing next, I'll be lining. This is the back part. I'll be lining it now with my lining. Then I also line the slit I made, turn the neckline and all that to show you guys the finishing part of my dress. Keep watching. Okay guys, this is the front part of the fabric, which is our main focus. Already looking very beautiful. I've lined it very well. I've also lined the back part of my dress. This is the back part. I just joined the zipper allowance together. So what I'll be doing now, I'll be shaping my dress. But first of all, I'll be joining the shoulder area. I'll use the lining to turn the shoulder area because I don't want the joining to show. So you just pick your lining like this. Place right side facing each other. Place the front against the back. And you flip your lining over this way. Just make sure everything is equal. Then you sew on it using 1/2 inch. Okay, this is how you place it. This is the way you can use your lining to turn your shoulder area. So that's all about that. Okay, so I'm just shaping this dress, attach my basic sleeve. I have a video on how to cut a basic cap sleeve. This is 6 inches long. I don't want a very lengthy sleeve. Please check my channel to watch on how to draft a basic sleeve. it's as easy as possible. Okay, right now just go ahead and shaping the dress and show you guys the finishing part of this dress. See ya. Okay guys, this is the end of my video. This is a beautiful dress. Ensure you like, share and subscribe, and please don't skip the ads. It's very important you don't skip the ads. God bless you. Bye.